Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are doing part 2 of 5 in my watercolor spring series. Last week we painted a flower field, and this week we are going to be painting a beautiful sky with mallards flying in it, because to me, mallards just represent spring. Whenever I see them start showing up in my front yard, I'm like, yes, it is springtime. So I'm going to be showing you how to paint that today, and I hope you enjoy this video as much as I do. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Emily Winslow, and I love helping others learn watercolor and find joy in painting. So let's go ahead and grab our paintbrushes and get started. Okay, so let's quickly go over what materials we're using in today's painting. So for my watercolor kit, I'm using the Winsor & Newton professional grade watercolors. And then for my brushes, I'm going to have 3 with me. I have a size 12, a size 8, and a size 1. And then for my paper, I'm using the brand Strathmore, and you can find these in my Amazon storefront, linked in my description. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of a sketch. So today, like I said, we're painting mallards, and this is going to require a little bit of sketching. So if you want to look up a reference photo of mallards, you can do so. I have a reference photo in front of me, so I am just going to kind of draw what I see, and you don't have to look up a reference photo, you can just draw what I'm doing. But if you wanted them in a different position, you are totally welcome to do that. Now I am going to just mark out maybe some quick blobs of where in general I want them to lay on the paper. So I think I want it to be not too symmetrical. So I think I want a blob right about there. Then I want one to fly maybe a little bit beneath it, right about here. And then we're going to have some sky around it. So it kind of helps to just mark out where exactly you want your ducks to fly. So I'm going to start with the one down here, and I'm just going to start marking out where its beak might be. So just doing a little straight line here. And we're going to do a little bit of a head. Now, don't worry if sketching might take a little bit longer. You can always pause the video and work on the sketch a little bit more. I will say this one will be pretty important to have it sketched out before we start painting. Sometimes landscapes you can kind of wing it without even sketching at all. So this one, we just want to make sure that we've got the shape of the duck out. So I'm going to do the male one down here in the front, kind of like it's leading the female duck. So cute. So this wing is going to go straight up in the back, and then we're just going to, actually, sorry, that's a little bit too big here. Totally fine if you need to erase. So I kind of just sketch until I think it looks good. And definitely I always need to erase some things, so just have an eraser on you if you need, but it doesn't have to be too perfect. I'm not focusing too much on realism here. I just kind of want to give the impression that these are mallard ducks. So I think that looks pretty good for one of them. So the male is going to have a little bit of a line here on its neck. Just make sure you leave that white. And there's also a little bit of white here in the wing. A little bit on here. So we can worry about that a little bit more when we are painting. Now for the female duck, I want to make it a little bit further up here. So I think I'm going to draw the beak right about here. And her little head right about here. And I wanted to find the duck's reference photos kind of in 2 different positions. That's a little bit of interest to the painting. So her wings are going to go down. So we're doing the top of her body here. And then I'm going to make sure her neck extends to the body, and this outside wing is going to go straight down. Kind of like this, and then it kind of curves outwards like this. And then the wing on the other side, we want to make sure it's also going down and goes right about here. I think that I actually want to make her head and neck a little bit bigger, so I'm actually just going to extend it down a little bit. And then her body goes down a little bit more. I think that looks a little bit better. And then I also wanted to kind of mark out where I wanted to leave it a little bit white on her wing. And females have like a little bit of blue part on the back of their wing. Not quite a duck expert, I only know what I see. So I think that looks great for our ducks. And what we're gonna do, actually I'm gonna do a little bit more sketching. So I do wanna do mostly sky around them. And then I think it'd be pretty with just a little bit of a tree line underneath. Not like the whole trees, but like kind of just the top of the trees. Like they're flying above the trees. So I'm just kind of doing that here. Being a little chaotic with the sketch. Okay, I think that looks good. So we can go ahead and grab our paintbrushes and start painting. Let's go ahead and just grab a nice light blue. I'm just gonna mix some white with our blue. Now the trick here is that we're gonna wanna paint around our ducks. We don't want to get the blue on them. So take your time with this. I'm just gonna mix this until I get a tone that I like. So once you have the color blue that you like for your sky, I like to start with a nice light one. You're just going to start going around the edges here and taking your wet brush, just going lightly around our ducks. It's okay if you get it a little bit on them because the ducks are going to be darker in pigment than the sky. And so it won't be too noticeable if you get it a little bit on them. That's totally fine. I just didn't want to cover all of them in blue because some parts of the ducks are going to be white. Just going around them and down this way, following the sketch. This is kind of why it was a little important to take our time on our sketch. That way, with watercolor, it kind of just helps to go in with a game plan because watercolor can be tricky. So this helped map out our sky, and now I'm just going to take some darker blues and just add in some of those pigments here. I want it to look like they're in a cloudy sky, and so I want the edges to be darker, and I want it to look like there are clouds that they're flying around, maybe going upwards with the clouds here. Sometimes it helps when clouds kind of look like they're going in an upward and out movement. So I kind of make my brush move in this way, up and out. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so now I'm gonna take maybe a purplish color. So I'm getting a little red here and mixing up maybe more pink than purple actually. And I'm just going to take this nice light color and start dotting that in around where some of the clouds fall. It's helping it look more like a cloudy sky. Now if you wanted just a clear blue sky, you can totally leave it. You don't need to do any shadowing to the clouds if you don't want to. I just love when clouds kind of have pink in them. So we're just adding a little bit of shadow here. No worries if you need to just pause and take a break after you do the sky before visiting the birds to let the whole sky dry. I always just try to work at a pace where I can just continuously keep painting. I never like to wait for paint to dry, which is why I find oil painting so hard. And we're just kind of adding some of that pinkish color here around the clouds. Let it blend in a little bit. Gotta trust the process sometimes because this right now could be a part where we all start to panic, where we think, oh no, this doesn't look like a sky full of mallards flying in it. But once we add the coloring to the mallards, it'll look beautiful. So keep going, don't give up on your painting. Now I'm just going to move around the color a little bit more. I'm just going to add a little bit of water in places where I think that the paint looks a little blotchy. So I think I'm going to revisit the sky maybe once we do the mallards, but let's go ahead and start adding color to the birds. So I'm going to do the male first, and I'm going to start with his head. So I'm mixing up a green color. Green and brown is kind of where I'm going to get a muted green color. Do a little bit of black in there. And I'm just going to paint that right on, avoiding where the beak is going to be. And also avoiding that little white spot on his neck. I'm just going to take a little bit of a black and brown, just a darker color here. And I'm just going to add that to the bottom of the head, get a little bit of a shadow. And now I'm going to take a more of a light cream, maybe a little bit of brown in there. This is going to be for his body. So it's going to be a little bit lighter on his underbelly here. So we're just going to add that color in right about like that. A little bit more brown in here. Then I'm going to add this light color to his wing. And then I'm going to just go over the top of the wing with a darker color and in the bottom too. I'm going to take this color on the other side of the wing here. Now this one, we want to kind of leave a few spaces that are maybe lighter. So I'm just going to go on the top, and then I'm leaving a white spot in that middle. Their feathers are a little bit lighter at the edge. Now I am going to take a darker brown color. This is going to be dark brown, maybe mixed even with a little bit of black here. And this is for the top part of the body under the white space of the neck. I want this to blend a little bit with the other colors here in the wings. So I'm going to put that a little bit underneath here, and then I'm going to add that into the other wing and maybe at the edge of some of the feathers. So I'm making a line motion. Now I don't want this line to be too stark, so I'm actually going to put some brown over it. Let this brown blend in a little bit more with the belly on the bottom. Now we're going to let his body dry a little bit and start visiting the female, and we'll come back for his beak and neck. So when we've got our brown color mixed up, let's go ahead and just add maybe a little bit more yellow to it. Got a little warmer color in her. And I'm just going to start going all over her body because the females are mostly brown. So go ahead and just lay that all over. Do want to make sure we leave just like a few white spots. So I do want to take maybe a little bit of a lighter pigment here and swiping over the whole wing here with that lighter color. And then we're just going to define her wing a little bit more here. Now I'm going to get a darker brown, so let's go ahead and mix up dark brown with a little bit of black in here. Just something dark to start helping outline the body. So I'm going to put that under the head, and we're going to actually put that under the body here into the wing on the other side. And I'm also going to put that on the top of the body, going down, starting to help define the wing a little bit more. When we're done with most of the painting, we'll probably go in with a smaller brush just to clean up a little bit. Now, kind of forgot, she's got a little bit of blue on her edge of the wing, so I'm just taking a nice bright blue and I'm just going to add that in here at the edge of the wing, like that. And I'm going to just take a light blue or a muted blue and just swipe that in a little bit along the wing, just to give a little color in here on this wing too. Okay, we're going to let the Dutch dry for a little bit before we add their beaks, but I'm going to visit the little tree line down here. I want to start with a warm tone of green. So I'm just adding red in here because I want it to kind of look like the light is hitting some of the trees. I'm just going to put that kind of at the top of the trees over here. And I actually don't love the clouds that I did at the bottom here, so I'm actually going to cover them up a little bit more. You can just go over a place that you might have felt like you messed up a little bit. Those clouds were hard. I think, you know what, if I were to do this again, I might not add the dimension to the clouds and make it just a really clear blue sky, because it was like a little bit hard to layer the clouds, like when you're avoiding the ducks. And yeah, I know there's a thing called oh my gosh, what's it called? It's like where you put it over a place that you don't want to paint over and then you peel it off. I have used that before, but I'm just, most of the time, I don't feel like using it. Because you have to, you know, get it out and be really precise with it and use a really tiny brush. So I always just try to avoid places in paintings that I don't want to like cover. So you can paint however you'd like to paint. Now we're just taking more of like a warm green for the trees. We're going to go underneath of like the reddish area here, and we're just going to dot this in. I think this kind of helps with our perspective a little bit, showing that the ducks are flying high above these trees. We're going to go in even more with the darker green. So let's go ahead and mix up like a bluish green, maybe some black in there. And I want to add that in more at the bottom. More of that shadowing here. It just helps it look like it's in the shadow. And even add some of that tone up here, and just adding the darker tones I think really helps pull your painting together. I think that kind of fixed our cloud problem a little bit. Still a little messy behind them, but you know what? That is okay. I still like the painting. I'm just gonna take a darker, maybe more reddish tone in here. So I'm just gonna add that even a little bit more to the bottom. Sometimes I paint with the blue like painter's tape around it, but other times I just kind of like the look of messy edges. So that's what I'm doing today. Kind of like that look. Okay, so then I just want to take some really light green here and just even start maybe making a really thin tree behind what we've already got here, just to show that there's some more trees here in the background, but maybe further back. So being really messy with this, some light, maybe some fir trees here. Okay, so now I think we can go ahead and revisit the mallards. So I'm going to do the male's neck. I'm just taking basically a creamish color. I didn't want this to be stark white. So I'm just adding that over. Maybe adding a little bit of blue underneath to look like a shadow. Adding a little bit more color there. And for the beaks, we're just going to do a little bit of an orange color here. And just easily swipe that in. Now I am going to take my smallest brush here and we're just going to clean up a teensy bit. So let's go ahead and just grab a dark color, maybe a dark blue. I mixed brown and blue here, and I'm just going to clean up the duck a little bit, maybe add some of that darker color right underneath him. Define him a little bit more. Don't want to maybe be too harsh with the line. Okay, I'm just adding a tad bit to help define it a bit more. Maybe at the tip of the wing. And do the same thing for the female, just kind of go underneath. Like always adding just some nice fine lines at the end helps complete the painting. I'm going to add this underneath their beak too. And the last thing I might do is kind of maybe add a little bit of a dot for their eye. And we are all done with this painting. So there we have it. We've got some mallards flying in the sky, and I think this one really does scream spring. I hope you all enjoyed this video and walk away with a beautiful painting of mallards in the sky. So let me know in the comments below what else you want to learn how to paint, and I'd be happy to make a tutorial on it. As always, you can find me on social media at Emily Winslow Art, and I'd love to hear from you and see your work, so you can send me a message on there. And if you could give this video a like and subscribe to my channel, that would be so appreciated. And until we paint again next time.